Hey, y'all. This is Dr. Carr, the Culture Docent, here to help you navigate and curate the experiences you want to have. So, welcome to the episode, Building a Space for Us. I know I say this probably I would say probably every topic and every guest, but I'm just always really excited about the topics and the people that come to talk to me. So I am genuinely excited about today's conversation. I am joined today by Rudy Fraser, founder of Black Sky Algorithms. Rudy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Carr. Really appreciate it. I'm Rudy. I am the founder and CEO of Black Sky Algorithms. Black Sky, we build infrastructure for folks to create online communities that can be ran democratically with the community, and for folks to be able to pool and share funds privately and securely. So we're really trying to create these like sovereign internet communities, and I've been working on that for about 2.5 years now. And before that, I was in enterprise IT based in Brooklyn with my wife and our dog.
I love that. What kind of dog do you have?
Uh, Poodle mix. Yeah, I think we call him a multi-poo,
Okay.
but we're not for sure.
I love the poodle mixes. I'm sorry. Some people don't like that, but I'm like all about that right now. They are so cute. Anyway, so the reason why I'm excited about this particular conversation is because everybody knows I love talking about leadership. I love talking about Black leaders specifically. I talked a lot about that within my dissertation, actually. Just being a Black leader is especially when you're intentionally creating spaces for Black people, no matter the industry, the field, right? It's going to come with this unique set of rewards and challenges. We just lead differently as a people. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Black leader. That is, y'all know, it's research backed, right? I come with facts. We are more likely to attribute our wins as this collective effort as opposed to individual ones. And we are going to recognize that our gains have a ripple effect. So it's not just going to be for us within maybe our team or our organization, even. It's going to expand. Those ripple effects are going to impact our community, and they're even going to impact, other marginalized identities within their communities as well. So when we win, the collective wins. And knowing that a lot of time that our work is going to bring this change is a driver. It's a motivation that we have for the work that we do. And I love that, right? I think that's extremely important and just unique to the people that we are. And so we're going to dig into that today in our conversation, just around, how we're leading in these spaces, being intentional in creating these spaces. So I thought it was completely apt to have Rudy on, knowing the work that he's been doing with Black Sky Algorithms. But before we get too far ahead in the convo, I just want to provide a little background context. So for those unaware, Blue Sky is a social media platform. It gained a lot of attention during kind of that, a little bit before, but especially during the mass exodus of folks leaving Twitter/X. I call it Twitter. His mama named him Twitter. I'm gonna call him Twitter. That's what I'm using. But, Blue Sky is really unique in that it operates on this open technical standard for social media that their team built as a foundation for that network. And so Blue Sky is just one app on top of it. And in theory, you could move your posts and followers to another app or server with different moderation or algorithms, without losing, your kind of social graph. It's a really I would say it's a really technical process. So I tried to make that digestible for everyone who's not, maybe
That was
doesn't have
great.
that background. Rudy, absolutely feel free to add additional, context as you're talking. But I would love to know, why is building Black Sky important?
Yeah, I think that was a really great explainer, by the way. So that was awesome. And then I want to touch on a couple things that you had mentioned about the like leadership style. I always give credit that Black Sky has been a community effort. There are both like these like Black radical politics that are a part of it, and then there's also like open source software movements. And so for folks who are unfamiliar with open source, it's like I give the explainer that it's like people are familiar with Wikipedia, and in like school they tell you not to use Wikipedia because anyone can edit it. And that's how open source software works. So you can imagine like if Instagram or Twitter worked like if they were open source, anyone would be able to go and modify it, add a new feed, change how a profile looks. And so it's a very collaborative effort. And Black Sky itself, there's a lot of people who've had their hands in it, both in ways that they were compensated and volunteer, and from technical and non-technical. And folks, like you mentioned, like there's like these even ripple effects throughout the community and beyond. There's groups that have formed that are inspired by Black Sky. There's a Canadian-based cooperative called North Sky that are trying to build um, a version, like use Black Sky's infrastructure. Their devs have contributed to our code, and they're trying to create these like an online community for the LGBTQ community. And so, yeah, I just want to everything you just said like really resonates with my experience and why it's important. Like you mentioned, app protocol, the other way I explain app protocol is that it's like you can imagine if social media is like a party, it's like one big block party in the neighborhood. And there are different, there are different houses on the block. They're playing different music. There's different crowds. There's a different vibe at each one. You're still always you, and you can just go and, hang out with your friends across the street. You can go to another house down the block at the corner. Sometimes some of these houses have a bouncer to make sure nothing gets rowdy. And there's community norms within each of these spaces. And that's how app protocol works. As a community is one house on that block, and then from an infrastructure, but we're all part of this bigger neighborhood. And then from an infrastructure perspective, we have also completely implemented the app protocol. So if Blue Sky were to disappear, Black Sky can keep going as it was because we also run all the same infrastructure that they rely on to, you know, store the data and create a global social media experience for 40 million people. We've done the same, and it's with the infrastructure we've built, we've reached over 2.5 million people. I think it's really important in this moment because I believe in this kind of this praxis of autonomy and being able to, there's always these there is usually, I think, the way people view some of this stuff of like black media brands like a Jet magazine
Mhm.
or an Essence. There's usually like you create something specifically for maybe one demographic because maybe you're excluded from the mainstream. So you create a kind of counter to that. People translated that in the past and have created things like a Black Planet. And there's been several kind of Black social media apps. I thought what was really interesting and important with app protocol is that, like, I think what those apps tend to hit a limit because you can kind of oftentimes people want both. You want the global experience, you want to be able to see what everything is happening, and you sometimes want the closed corner. I think of it as like there's different ways to like modulate your speech and modulate, you can be in a crowded room and sometimes just talk to the folks at your table, and sometimes you want a megaphone to speak to the whole room. And so I saw in the potential of app protocol the opportunity to have all of that, and yeah, just be able to be a part of a whole while still maintaining your own autonomy. And I think it's really important now because yeah, I think there are communities that have various needs that are not met by larger social media platforms. Just mathematically speaking, if Facebook has 4 billion users, they really can't design and build for even just like a community of 10 million,
Right.
right? And so there's different calculations that you make when you're trying to build for a homogenous, maybe like considering them a homogenous group of like 4 billion people versus being able to really tailor things to a particular experience. So that's kind of where things stem from. And then from there, I was really inspired by early internet communities and these like early internet ideals and optimisms that maybe, maybe all the problems of the physical world could be solved in creating new online spaces. So, and I really do believe in that. I think that personally, I don't think that they replace the offline spaces. We're really trying to create like digital third spaces. So spaces people can gather, form connections, find community, be able to practice mutual aid, be able to share resources with each other. And then we're just very well aware that if you create those safe spaces, they become targets. And so you also have to build things in a way that preserves people's privacy and preserves people's safety. I think you make a much better internet space, and I think you make, you know, you allow people to practice democratic principles online. I think all these things improve both our online experiences and our offline experiences if we have those.
Yeah, no. One, the Black Planet reference kind of hit me, and I was like, "Dang, am I my knee messing up already?" Like it just made me feel kind of old. But I completely agree. I think that also resonates with a lot of people, especially like the analogies, right? Of like still wanting to be, maybe wanting to just talk to people around you and then but wanting to be heard and wanting to share out to the larger group. I didn't realize, that there were so many ways that we aren't able to connect in real life to support like mutual aid until, really needing it. Like particularly in this moment, like there are what we're up to 600,000 Black women that are out of, have been displaced from work, right? Like, and back, this number was 300,000 in August. Like, it is astronomical, and we've never seen anything like that. And so, being able to provide a space where Black women can receive support, and obviously it's not just Black women, that's just a stat that I threw out, but like, anyone can receive support by leveraging these kind of spaces. And I think that third space is very real, just because we just don't have those in the way that we used to. We can get into that's a different podcast, y'all. We're not going to get into all like the reason why capitalism kind of deaded the third space, but we're going to focus on our conversation here today. But I just think it's really important that we are intentional in creating these spaces, but recognizing that, there are a lot of challenges that come with that. Specifically saying like we're trying to create a safe space, but then you become a target, and we're in a very precarious time where diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are being undermined, they're being openly dismantled. And so what have been some of the challenges that you faced in creating your platform, knowing kind of all of these things are happening around you?
There are constant challenges. There's a new challenge just on Tuesday. You know, I think at the starting from the top, 1.4% Black founders get received venture, you know, all of the venture funding from, I think, in the last year or so. The stat has steeply dropped where it was like a peak in 2020, shortly after the George Floyd uprisings, and then it has gone down and even lower than it was before then. So the backlash has, you know, it has these financial impacts, and then from there, so you have, if you're looking at it, if you want to build a world changing tech, like the reason that people believe in technology is because it can be a vehicle for changing the world. You know, my display name on Black Sky is Rudy Wants Revolution. And people, you know, if they're a bad faith actor, they kind of think of that as like a maybe a violent revolution. But if you look in, like, if you really study the tech industry, which most technologists nowadays, they don't actually have an adequate understanding of their industry. But if you really read, a lot of folks, they viewed themselves as kinds of revolutionaries. You know, there was a computer revolution. A revolution is simply a complete change of something. So, you know, if you can imagine, people used to not have computers and now we all have computers in our pockets. That is a revolution. That is revolutionary. And so people having autonomy and control over their online identities, where right now they don't, it's all fragmented. So there's data extraction, there's hyper surveillance. People get disconnected from their financial rails. People get bank accounts shut down. People get their, you know, payment processors declined to process stuff for their business. When you talk about mutual aid coming into those situations, it's just like when SNAP benefits get cut and people, you know, start up food lines to help distribute food and resources to people. Yeah, it's about creating systems like that. And when you, so if you're starting this out and you're designing knowing that that's what's going to come at you, then that's really what has shaped, you know, that's the design constraints for Black Sky. Be there, you have a 1 point of all the, you know, of all the money possible, there's only 1.4% of it that you're going to get. Focus on trying to get a piece of that 1% of 1%, or do you do something completely different? And so for us, we pursued other paths and it has worked out very well for us. So that's one. The other is like, obviously, for with no matter what I say, people will always associate, firstly, Black Sky is the community, and then there's Black Sky Algorithms, the company. And so because of that kind of play on words and who I am and my identity, people will always be like, well, Black Sky seems to like only be for the Black community.
Mm.
And they don't understand the concept of open source and how I've given the code away for free from the very beginning. Somehow we've managed to make money off of a social media product that we've given away for free, which I think is like virtually unheard of. Like people don't pay for social media and people don't pay for things that you give away for free. But we've been able to build a community around that, which is, the Silicon Valley really loves a contrarian until
Yeah.
they kind of see like a real contradictory success story, especially if it doesn't fit their kind of preconceived notions of who should be succeeding. And then so there's that. There's the like kind of like doubt and skepticism of how big can you be if you focus, if you're like this or you brand yourself this. People are always telling me to like separate the Black Sky brand from the actual software we create. And then lastly, it's just like a target on our back. I've been doxxed by white supremacists. We had just this week, someone was like kind of trolling us to be like, if they like signed up for, they were kind of critiquing Black Sky's ideology and idea of creating these safe spaces. And then they created an account on Black Sky because we do allow, like, you just can't have the Black Sky handle, but we have these other handles for like crypto anarchy.net. So for folks, when you create an account, you have like rudy.blacksky.app. But we have other ones. We have like myatproto.social. We have cryptoanarchy.network. We have these kinds of generic ones for other communities because we kind of want to be like a protocol level version of Reddit. And for folks, when people say protocol, you could think of like if an app is like the board game, the protocols are the rules to the game. So we want to stay at the rules level and just and allow communities to create their apps is kind of how the perspective that I have. And so they created this account to troll us, and then they did it with like a kind of a slick reference, like a blackface account is their profile picture. They kind of inverted their avatar and made it that way, knowing we would ban them for blatant racism,
Right.
and then proceeded to write a whole blog post about
Being
how
banned.
we're excluding them. Yeah. So there's always a target on our back. And yeah, but we just nav that all shapes the way I move as a leader and the way the company operates and how the community operates and how we operate with the community. Because as long as we're doing right by the community, I feel like we're not doing right.
Yeah, I think it's important that you make that distinction of, we're trying to operate at the rules level and then allow each of the communities to run their apps, to do their things, because it gets us to some, I feel like, a challenge that we often face of like, okay, you're being exclusionary, right? It's like, are we though? Because we allow it's open to everyone, right? Like
Hmm.
we've given away the code, like you're we have these communities, we created the rules. It's up to you to then, take that and go forth. But to the trolls, like they're always going to be looking for something just to be agitating.
Yeah, it's very important to like know that that stuff will come and then have your own like support systems and team behind you to be able to navigate those things because ultimately it's just this a very predictable kind of reverse racism argument, to say that Black Sky, there's I won't even repeat all the like silly accusations, but if I scroll LinkedIn and I see a 200-person company post their entire company for a group photo and there's not an ounce of melanin in the photo, that's not racism, that's a pipeline problem. And so yeah, I just don't even waste the time on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, no, that I felt because it's serving as a distraction, right? And like they're
Yeah.
purposely trying to be distracting. But when you were talking about revolutionaries, and I'm very big on words. Y'all know that words mean things.
Hmm.
That was, and there's also trends in the way people are using words, right? And so revolutionaries, to your point, right, like that, it means something. It means like that positive like disruption.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be violent, it doesn't have to be like, obviously there are those things as well, but it doesn't have to be that. And there are many examples of that throughout history. But even if we just keep it kind of in this realm, when like in the it was okay to say like we're going to revolutionize TV, we're going to revolutionize the
Hmm.
internet, right? Like people are throwing around that word all the time, but now they've shifted, so again, trends and words. So instead of being a revolutionary, like then it moved to kind of being a disruptor, and now it's being an innovator, when all of those are the same thing. All of them are
Hmm.
the same. It's just a marketing tactic, really.
Hmm.
But it's all the same activity. You are trying to change, right? And ideally make something better by bringing in this new idea. And I'm just curious because I would love for you to share with us, for people within their own industries. And everybody knows in the Culture Docent, we talk about any industry, like we're industry agnostic, like it's whatever field, whatever industry you're in, what we're sharing is going to be applicable to you. But Rudy, what advice do you have for any individuals that are looking to shake things up in their own industries?
I think first talking about like words mean things. Like I my favorite definition of disrupting technologies or disruption in general is that like it's the idea and the concept as let's say let's look at like Facebook, right? A lot of the things we do on app protocol and especially for Black Sky, Facebook would probably never do. Facebook has created a federated because sometimes this area of technology is called the Fediverse. They created Threads. Threads interoperates, which means to like it can work with federated technologies. And so they've taken that little step, but disruption is, as I like to understand it, is the big competitors, the people who have way more money than you, way more people than you know, have all the resources, have political connections. They can see what you're doing, but they can't follow you. They just can't do it because to do it would mean to make us the math is all wrong for them. So for example, Threads and a lot of big social media companies, they make money off of advertising on a decentralized protocol like App Protocol, where people can, we had thousands of people leave Blue Sky. They migrated over to Black Sky. They moved all their data over here, and they're still able to connect with the network. So they left Blue Sky, lost users, but those users did not lose followers or their who they're following. Can you imagine the same thing with like Instagram and Twitter? Like if people could easily pick up their Twitter accounts and then just move to Threads or Instagram, if they were to interoperate in that way, it would be possible. But so like decentralized social media fundamentally disincentivizes advertising business models because if Blue Sky were to put ads in their feeds, even if people could just move to a different, they could just use the Black Sky they could log into Black Sky community. Even if you haven't migrated to Black Sky, you can still use Black Sky community. It works with wherever you're hosted, and so that fundamentally means that like Blue Sky is sharply disincentivized to run advertising. So that's disruptive. They like Threads and Facebook may like starter packs, which allow you to follow, a bunch of accounts as soon as you sign up and follow feeds. They may like the custom feeds. They actually copied that feature. They copy these features.
Hmm.
Threads copied custom feeds. Other competitors would copy like starter packs. I think Threads also may have copied starter packs, if I'm not mistaken. But they won't go all the way because to go all the way would mean their whole financial business model will get flipped on its head. So my advice for folks would be to kind of and for me with Black Sky, like sometimes I have a little issue, a little nitpick with Blue Skies because sometimes they say that they are for communities. Like we started saying Black Sky is for communities, and they started saying that Blue Skies for communities, which happens if you have like something that like is working, right? People will try to copy you, and so your job, I think, is to do it in a way that for them to copy you, it would hurt them. You know, like Blue Sky can kind of say that they're for communities, but they can't go about it the way we go about it because we're very opinionated in our moderation. They're trying to be this like neutral party. They have a lot of political attention on them right now. And so, Black Sky we have a lot of positive favor with the ecosystem because we are firm about we do not allow racism on our platform, period. There's a lot of places there's a lot of interviews with social media founders. People ask them like, would you allow someone to say this racist thing? And they start,
Yeah.
well, it becomes a situation for them. Go down paths where people can't follow you is my advice.
I love that. I love that. Y'all, that was a gem. So make sure that you Write that down. No, this has been wonderful. And because I am a little bit of a nerd, I would love to keep talking about this because I would want to know more about just the tech behind it. But we have reached the end of our conversation. So we're going to move into our carte blanche. That's CARRTE for everyone. But carte blanche is anything goes. And so because it's my show, anything goes for me. But Rudy, I'm going to ask you a question for carte blanche, and it is going to be, what is one motto you live and die by?
I have two really,
Give
but
us two.
there are two. Okay, well, one's kind of like it's like a little on the aggressive side, but it is. I think I really believe it is just like who can't hear must feel. It's like a Caribbean phrase,
Yes.
and it just means that if someone who doesn't listen kind of has to learn it the hard way. And I take that into account for myself. I say it often to a lot of other people, but I take it into account for myself because it reminds me to like do I want to learn this the hard way, or do I want to like listen and try to take in the advice that I'm receiving from someone? And then you make the calculus of if you're okay with the hard way. And then the other is nothing to hide, nothing to prove, nothing to fear, nothing to lose. And that just reminds me, like for me personally, like I came up and my come up over the last 10 years has been, for me, it's been life changing. I've experienced houselessness, food insecurity. I've talked a lot about all that. And now I've been in the position to like run a company and have maintained the same lifestyle for a couple years now. And I'm just grateful every day that I get to wake up and be in control of my destiny, be able to have an impact on the world. I'm always really surprised when I meet people and they're like, they know who I am and they know the work that I do. And yeah, I was, frequently told that something like the version of me that I see in the mirror every day was not the version that I would get to. And so, yeah, I always remind myself, I kind of, I have nothing to lose. I can just keep.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is very similar to our episode on do it anyway. So like you really don't have nothing to lose. And
Yeah.
I would say in Black Southern households, it's a hard head make a soft ass, right?
Hmm.
Either way you gonna learn. Either way you gonna learn.
Hmm.
All right, y'all. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, Rudy. Appreciate you sharing with us. We will have these contact information, of course, when we post the episode, so y'all be able to see it. And then for all of our listeners, I'm wishing you the best in this holiday season. Make sure that you stop by the vault on KMOB for the best of the best in the business, luxury, and travel arenas. So you'll be able to find all the resources that you need that fit your current and future lifestyle. So we will see you on Tuesday for more empowering conversations that lead to empowered experiences. Bye, y'all.